The lawyers of actors Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni have met in a US federal court for the first time, marking the onset of legal proceedings between the two.
We turn now to Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni. The It Ends With Us co-star's legal battle has entered the courtroom, and Ariel Reshef.
It was a moment no one could have predicted. Blake Lively, Hollywood's golden girl, the epitome of elegance and perfection, collapsed in the middle of a courtroom.
Those concerns bring us to the first question in our investigation. Getting some of the specifics now, what did Blake Lively accuse Justin Baldoni of doing on set?
Her body giving way under the weight of the sentence she had just heard. The actress who once captivated millions with her charm and grace was now facing a harsh reality. As Blake's world crumbled, cameras flashed, capturing the dramatic scene for the world to see. What led to this public breakdown, and why did Blake's fate take such a shocking turn? As her tears spilled in front of a silent courtroom, Blake was forced to confront the consequences of her past actions, and the world would never be the same. The rise of Hollywood's darling and the first cracks. Blake Lively seemed to have it all. From the moment she landed the iconic role of Serena van der Woodsen on Gossip Girl, her stardom skyrocketed. The blonde beauty quickly became Hollywood's it girl, and her career blossomed with roles in major films. With her perfect looks, undeniable charm, and a radiant smile, Blake was the epitome of grace in an industry notorious for its ruthless nature. She was the golden child, the one everyone wanted to emulate, the woman who seemed to have it all: the career, the fame, the perfect husband, Ryan Reynolds. Together, they were the ultimate power couple, a beacon of Hollywood's idea of perfection. For years, Blake dazzled on red carpets, walked the aisles of award shows with a graceful poise, and posted pictures of family vacations on social media that made fans envious of her seemingly perfect life. Fans idolized her for her effortless style, her quick wit, and her ability to balance Hollywood with a down-to-earth charm. She was the girl next door that everyone rooted for. Every appearance was a show of perfection. Flawless makeup, flawless outfits, and a flawless marriage. Blake was untouchable, and her fans were convinced that she was living the dream. But as the old adage goes, things that seem too good to be true often are. Behind the scenes, cracks began to form. As Blake's career reached new heights, the pressure to maintain her flawless image intensified. Her social media posts became increasingly scrutinized, her personal life more dissected by tabloids. But the real cracks came when whispers started to circulate within the industry about financial mismanagement. These whispers quickly escalated from mere gossip into serious allegations, leading to a major lawsuit filed against Blake's production company. At first, it seemed like the typical celebrity gossip story, just another celebrity caught in the chaos of the Hollywood machine. But when the details of the lawsuit emerged, everything changed. Allegations of fraud, breach of contract, and falsifying financial records took center stage, and suddenly, Blake was at the center of a scandal that threatened to ruin her entire career. As the media shifted its gaze from Blake's picture-perfect life to her possible involvement in shady financial dealings, the public began to question everything they thought they knew. Blake, the woman they had once admired for her candor and elegance, was now being painted as a fraud. The once gilded image of Hollywood's darling was starting to tarnish. The case revolved around accusations that Blake had intentionally misled investors about the financial state of a project she had been involved in. Worse, it was alleged that she had falsified important documents to keep the project alive, all to avoid the personal fallout that would have ensued if the truth had been revealed. What was once the talk of the town, her flawless beauty and perfect marriage, was now overshadowed by a scandal that involved deceit, fraud, and a calculated cover-up. As the case continued, more shocking details emerged, and Blake's attempts to explain herself only made things worse. Fans who had once adored her for her grace and kindness were now questioning her authenticity. Could this stunning actress, once seen as the epitome of all that was good in Hollywood, be hiding a darker side? Blake's image of perfection, carefully built over the years, was now falling apart. Was this just another case of a star losing their way in the cutthroat world of entertainment? Or was there something far more sinister at play? The courtroom shock. Blake Lively entered the courtroom on the fateful day of her sentencing with an almost tangible sense of dread hanging over her. The stakes had never been higher, and the weight of the world was on her shoulders. Blake, who had always been known for her cool, collected public persona, was now forced to face the consequences of her actions in front of an eager audience. Hollywood's golden girl, who had once effortlessly charmed millions, was now a defendant in a case that could destroy everything she had built. As Blake sat at the defendant's table, her lawyer, a top-tier legal expert, tried to downplay the severity of the charges. But it was clear that the case against Blake was overwhelming. The prosecutor, a seasoned professional who had dealt with high-profile cases before, wasted no time in outlining the extent of the alleged crimes. "This isn't about a couple of bad business decisions," the prosecutor said, his voice cold and authoritative. "This is a calculated attempt to manipulate a system that millions rely on for fairness. This is fraud, plain and simple." Blake Lively knowingly misled investors, falsified financial documents, and used her position in Hollywood to deceive the public for personal gain. Blake's hands clenched in her lap as the weight of the accusations washed over her. She could feel the eyes of the courtroom on her, the pressure mounting with every word. When the judge finally spoke, his words were blunt and unforgiving. "Blake Lively, you are found guilty on multiple charges of financial fraud, falsification of documents, and breach of contract," the judge said, the sound of his voice slicing through the tension in the room. Blake's heart sank as the verdict was delivered. The walls seemed to close in around her. Her world was crashing down in that instant, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. She had known the consequences would be severe, but hearing the words out loud was another matter entirely. The sentence, a significant fine, a period of probation, and the most unexpected punishment of all, 1 full year of community service. Blake had expected something less severe, maybe a fine, perhaps some house arrest, but not this. The magnitude of the sentence hit her like a ton of bricks. As the judge's words reverberated through the courtroom, Blake's face went white. She felt her hands shake uncontrollably, her composure beginning to crumble. And then, in front of the watching world, Blake collapsed. Her body slumped forward, her face hitting the courtroom floor with a sickening thud. The chaos was immediate, with her lawyer rushing to her side, paramedics rushing in, and cameras flashing in every direction. Blake Lively, the untouchable star, was now vulnerable, her pristine image shattered before the world. The fallout. Blake's dramatic collapse in court was broadcast across the world in real time, and the fallout was immediate. News outlets went into overdrive, replaying the footage of Blake crumbling in the courtroom, her face pale and her body shaking uncontrollably. For the public, it was surreal. How could someone who had been so adored for years fall so hard, so quickly? The media, who had once fawned over Blake's every move, now turned on her with savage intensity. Headlines flooded the tabloids. Blake Lively collapses in court. Is this her final fall? Hollywood's golden girl breaks down. What does this mean for her future? The public's reaction was mixed. Some believed that Blake's collapse was a genuine emotional response to the weight of the situation. the years of living under constant pressure finally taking their toll. Others, however, accused her of staging the breakdown for sympathy. Was this a ploy to win back public favor, one reporter speculated, or was it a genuine emotional breakdown from someone who finally realized the enormity of their mistakes? The debate raged on, but one thing was clear. Blake's public image, once unassailable, was now in ruins. Behind closed doors, Blake's PR team worked tirelessly to manage the fallout. They released statements claiming that Blake was deeply shaken by the court's decision and needed time to rest. But the media was relentless, and more Hollywood insiders began speaking out. They revealed that Blake's image, the one that had made her a household name, was carefully crafted over the years. Was Blake's perfect life just a facade, a product of media manipulation and carefully constructed PR campaigns? As more secrets about her carefully curated persona came to light, the public began to question everything they thought they knew about Blake Lively. As the media frenzy continued, the question on everyone's mind was, could Blake recover from this, or had she irreparably damaged her career? Fans who had once adored her now found themselves wondering whether they had been duped all along. Was Blake the charming, down-to-earth woman they thought they knew, or was she just another Hollywood illusion? Hollywood shuns Blake. Blake's breakdown in court was just the beginning of her painful descent. As the media continued to replay the footage of her collapse, the world saw a woman at her lowest. Her carefully constructed image of Hollywood's perfect darling was shattered, and the repercussions were swift and unforgiving. As Blake retreated from the public eye to recover, the backlash was already in full force. The Hollywood machine, notorious for its cutthroat nature, showed no mercy. Within hours of her court appearance, Hollywood's elite began distancing themselves from her. A-list actors, directors, and producers who had once been eager to collaborate with Blake now began to quietly pull away. Movie deals that had been months in the making were abruptly cancelled, and sponsorships that Blake had relied on for years disappeared. Her name was removed from several upcoming projects, and the public relations nightmare that followed ensured she was no longer the go-to girl for movie studios. The studios had moved on, and it seemed as though Blake's time in Hollywood was over. Even her supporters in Hollywood were cautious. Blake had been the perfect image of a well-behaved, talented actress, but now she was a liability, a risk that few were willing to take. Longtime friends and collaborators, who once praised her professionalism and charm, began to quietly distance themselves. The whispers behind closed doors became louder. She's done. She'll never be the same. Blake had been Hollywood's golden girl, but now she was the industry's cautionary tale. The actress who had once had the world at her feet was now a pariah. But it wasn't just her career that was in jeopardy. Her personal life was unraveling at a rapid pace as well. Rumors started to swirl that her marriage to Ryan Reynolds, which had been the picture of perfection, was beginning to show signs of strain. The couple, who had once been Hollywood's ultimate power pair, were now the subject of speculation. Were they still the perfect couple, or had the pressures of the scandal driven a wedge between them? Sources close to the couple hinted that the scandal had taken its toll on their relationship, but Blake and Ryan remained tight-lipped. Despite the public support they continued to offer each other, it was clear that the strain of the scandal was weighing heavily on their marriage. As Blake's image continued to crumble, it became increasingly clear that the damage had been done. Hollywood had moved on, and Blake's place in the industry seemed uncertain. Could she ever recover from this? Would the public forgive her, or would she forever be marked by this scandal? As the weeks passed, Blake's future in Hollywood hung in the balance, and the world waited to see if she could somehow redeem herself, or if this was the final chapter in her once glittering career. Redemption or ruin? After months of media scrutiny and personal heartbreak, Blake Lively finally made the decision to confront the public head-on. She knew that she couldn't stay hidden forever. Her legal troubles had dominated the headlines for far too long, and the constant media circus was taking a toll on her. With Hollywood no longer at her doorstep, Blake had two choices: fade into obscurity or fight for redemption. She chose to fight. Blake's first move was to issue a public statement acknowledging her mistakes. She admitted her errors in judgment, took full responsibility for her actions, and apologized to the people she had hurt. It was a raw, emotional statement that many hoped would signal the beginning of her redemption. She expressed regret for deceiving investors and pledged to learn from her mistakes. But the public wasn't so easily convinced. The media, who had once adored her, now seemed determined to hold her accountable for every misstep. Her public apology was met with mixed reactions. While some of her loyal fans applauded her honesty, others viewed it as a desperate attempt to win back favor. Critics labeled it too little, too late, claiming that Blake had only come clean because her back was against the wall. Hollywood insiders were divided. Some believed that with time, Blake might be able to rebuild her career, while others believed she had permanently damaged her reputation. The truth was, Blake's path to redemption wouldn't be easy. The public had already formed their opinions, and undoing the damage done by the scandal seemed impossible. Despite the challenges, Blake refused to give up. She took time away from the spotlight, focusing on her personal life and working to rebuild her image from the inside out. She attended therapy to address the emotional toll the scandal had taken on her, and she worked with a new PR team to carefully craft her public narrative. But the more she tried to make amends, the more it felt like she was constantly battling an uphill fight. Each new public appearance, each new attempt at speaking out, was met with skepticism. Could Blake really change? Or was she simply trying to salvage what little was left of her career? As the months passed, Blake's fans became increasingly divided. Some remained loyal, believing in her ability to change, while others began to question whether the woman they had adored was ever real to begin with. The question on everyone's mind remained: could Blake truly recover from the scandal that had torn apart her life, or had she already lost everything? The final test. Blake Lively had fought tooth and nail to salvage what was left of her career, but after the public outcry and media backlash, there was only one final opportunity for redemption. She had been forced to take on smaller roles in independent films, away from the Hollywood spotlight that had once been her home. These were roles that didn't have the same weight as her previous blockbusters, but they allowed Blake to begin rebuilding her career quietly, without the crushing pressure of Hollywood's gaze. It was a strategic move, one that would let her start fresh, away from the cameras that had once adored her. Her return to acting was met with mixed reactions. Some fans were excited to see her back on screen, hoping for a sign that the Blake they once knew and loved had returned. Others remained skeptical, questioning her motives. Was she really trying to rebuild her career, or was she simply trying to salvage whatever was left of her public image? The media continued to follow her every move, scrutinizing her performances and weighing every word she spoke. Blake knew that her every step was being watched, and with each new role, she faced the ever-present question: could she ever regain her former glory? The industry's reception to Blake's comeback was lukewarm. Some critics praised her for taking risks with smaller projects, while others labeled her as irrelevant, a has-been trying to hold on to a past that no longer existed. Hollywood's elite had already moved on, and Blake's career, once so promising, seemed like a distant memory. But despite the harsh criticism, Blake remained determined. She knew that this was her last chance to reclaim a place in the industry. She had been handed a second chance, but whether she could prove herself worthy of it remained to be seen. As the media continued to dissect Blake's every move, The pressure was mounting. With each new project, she was trying to show the world that she was more than just a scandal or a breakdown in the courtroom. But with the weight of her past mistakes hanging over her, Blake had a long way to go before the public would fully accept her again. Would Blake Lively rise from the ashes of her scandal, or would she remain a fallen star, remembered more for her mistakes than her talent? Outro, Blake Lively's fall from grace was nothing short of extraordinary. What seemed like the perfect life and career crumbled in an instant, and the battle for redemption continues. Will she manage to overcome the ghosts of her past and rebuild her career, or has the damage been done beyond repair? Only time will tell. What do you think? Can Blake make a comeback, or is her time in Hollywood over? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more updates on this shocking story.